First of all, I think your analysis was very straight-lined. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing phones.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Tomorrow, Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective, yes, but an erratic detective is Mickey Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
You apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there, a pleasant Wednesday evening to you. I hope it is pleasant, and in my heart, I hope Tuesday evening was pleasant, not Monday evening. We have gone through that thing again and again and again. I remember my daughter was 3 years old, going to St. Anthony's School in Church Street, and then the conflagration started, post-electoral violence, and we're trying like hell to get her home. Now she is a big woman, and she faced that thing, and you wonder when will it ever done? And these things could be avoided. Monday evening could be avoided. I want to talk a little bit long, hope not too long, so then I'll quite come in, but there are things that we need that are still, you're still reeling with from the disappointment of Monday evening vis-a-vis the police force. Now, what kind of intelligence the police force operates with the past 10, 15, 20 years? You have a gathering outside the Georgetown Hospital. There is no intelligence transmission that, look, this thing is building up. Come here, nip it in the bud. Once that thing starts to build up, put your barriers. Mm-hmm. You know what? I stayed on this program, round this table for 3 years now. And I say we go to have our money by 2028. It is predicted that there's going to be a huge surge in our income. But I said we go to have nice infrastructures. We're not going to have those dilapidated roads. It's gone. All the streets will have lights. UG is free. We're going to have more things pouring into the Georgetown Hospital. But some things are going to remain the same. When you have the all conference, a private body holding an all conference for 3 days at a large hotel, they blocked 4 corners. I am telling you, take it from me. I'm every afternoon on the seawall. I grew up on the seawall. From 10-year-old, my father worked at St. Stanislaus College, and I left primary school and was with him. I know the seawall more than any human on planet Earth, the Georgetown seawall. When there's an all conference, they block 4 blocks. They put barricade 4 blocks. You can't go near the seawall, you can go near Kingston for an all conference where everybody can drive into Marriott Hotel. The last all conference this year, I couldn't buy pet food at Toucan in Water Street. 1 block away from Toucan was cordoned off. Now they knew, the police had to know when that thing was building up. You know what's the Georgetown Hospital? I think it's an 800-bed hospital. It may be 5 or 8, I don't know. You know the amount of sick people you have there, and they're hearing gunfire? The police faulted badly on Monday afternoon outside the Georgetown Hospital. Where is the police intelligence? And then to make it worse, the father of the child, the dead child, said something that was terrible, and it had a boomerang effect. He said that's not when the postmortem result came out. He said that's not the results I wanted. That result is not true. And one of the pathologists was his choosing. The government paid for a pathologist that he identified. And the man ran out to the Georgetown Hospital saying that result is not fair. That added to the conflagration. Craig will come in just now, but the police force just have to go on a retreat. Trinidad had a CARICOM police chief. Non-Trinidad. I think Jamaica too. We need to bring in CARICOM people, not no outside people. That damn nonsense. We have one family called CARICOM West Indian family. That nonsense about FBI and bringing in someone from UK. This region must be ruled by Caribbean people from Guyana in South America to Jamaica in the north. We are one Caribbean people. And we must stop this nonsense about somebody from Ireland, somebody from the UK. They are top-class police officers, top-class doctors, top-class economists, top-class accountants, top-class engineers from our family, the Caribbean family. And maybe we should bring in Caribbean people for a couple of years about the police force. What happened at the hospital was a total failure on the part of the police force. Now, before Leonard Craig comes in, I saw on video some of the victims. Do you know, go back on the videos when the protest was outside the hotel. You will see Indian people, Tushin is Indian and black, were in that crowd. When the body was found in the pool, I saw an Indian man jumped in. Yet a lot of the victims Monday evening were Indians. Indian drivers, Indian lorry drivers. I saw a group of people, I saw it on video, a group of, what you call them, squareheads, or what? Running down Rob Street and saw an Indian man and began to kick him and beat him up. Why the tragedy of an 11-year-old girl, which the whole nation, there were Indian people in the vigil, there were Indian people saying, we got to do better than this than a nation. And then you could turn around and throw acid on a bus carrying Indian school children. And I want to know if this country is not going to call for the expulsion from Parliament and the PNC of Viceroy Jordan. When I heard what he said in an interview at the Georgetown Hospital about when it was asked if the government cared about the little girl. You know, all of these things. Monday evening, wasn't the scrapheads or scrapheads or what you call them alone? They heard what their leader said. They heard what their leader said since from Mackenzie, since from Linden, what was happening. I'm going to stop there. And when I come back, I want to know why these people are fighting for a consensus candidate to fight an election that know that they're going to lose because of how they behave. Leonard?
Thanks, Freddie. Thanks again, viewers, for joining us. I want to go back a little further, and I want to start from last week when that young girl was missing, that 11-year-old Adriana was missing. The police blundering began almost immediately. A person is said to be missing in broad daylight, and a police and the person is a child, and the police response was lukewarm, lackadaisical, and based on the account of the family that has not yet been disputed by anyone, that the police moved in protection of the owners of the hotel rather than the victims or the family of the eventual victim. What that is saying to us is that policing, or it appears as though policing is up for sale, and policing is leased to the highest bidder. So you take the side of the person with that massive infrastructure, the hotel, rather than the lowly, ordinary people who paid $500 per person to go swim. And that, for me, and people who have heard me on this program before or follow what I do or talk about, I will always err on the side of poor people. Always. I take in their side first and then move on to attempt to be balanced. I now balancing on behalf of rich people. And again, I always repeat that Chedi Jagan is on video. It's on Facebook. You can look it up. He said, when I govern, or what I prefer, is not to make a country for the rich. He said when anything happened, the rich could take care of themselves. But the nation, the police force, the institutions of government need to first protect the poor. And I will always err on the side of the poor.
You ever see how much of them in the Georgetown Hospital? Because they can't go to other...
Right. And so I want to start there. And we have to develop a police force that is extremely compassionate, especially compassionate towards the poor. And not just a Guyana police force, an entire government service that is geared, that understands the travail of the poor and is directed or oriented to look out for the poor and to treat them and to provide a service to them that respect their dignity. And I don't see that. I did not see that in the actions of the Guyana Police Force. So I'm using this platform, along with what Freddie said from Monday going forward. I'm using this platform to call for deep police reform. I'm not talking about superficial reform, moving somebody from one district to the next, sending somebody on leave. That is superficial. That's standard. That happens everywhere. But in order to change the culture of the Guyana Police Force that says when we respond to something, we will do it professionally, come what may. And that is what I would like to use this platform to do. Call for deep police reform. Freddie made a suggestion that maybe we can have a commission of police that is not from Guyana, from somewhere in the Caribbean. I am a little more than him. I am a little more lenient in terms of adding international or people outside of the Caribbean, I'm a little more lenient. But I am with him on what he said. But I'm a little more lenient because of this reason. We have a lot of Guyanese people and children born to Guyanese parents who are in many sensitive positions overseas and contributing well that can come back.
So you by international, you mean international Guyanese?
Oh, right, international Guyanese. And in some cases, the persons may not have Guyanese roots, but they have worked with Guyanese to so large an extent that they understand, right. So there are some people in some districts in New York, policemen in districts in New York who interface with Guyanese, so for me, my leniency is a little more than Freddie's. Given those parameters,
I would prefer to stick with Caribbean people.
Given the parameters I'm talking about, but yeah, maybe even that. And if that happens, none of us would want it to be perpetual. It got to be time bound. And I would also call on the government. I know senior people in the government to look at this program, and I often tell people I am not here to parade as a balanced arbiter. I hope my views are balanced, and I want them to be balanced, and I try to be balanced at all times. But I support a particular government. I support the government. And so I say that not because of anything. I want you to know where I am coming from. And for those in the government, understand that when people who support you are calling for orientation in a certain direction, is because you
want to see the government do better.
Yes, right. And it is from that perspective.
You're actually protecting them by pointing out the vulnerabilities.
Exactly. So understand that I'm not coming from a place of a vehement critic of the government. And I am saying that all is not right in the Guyana police force. All is not right. And decisive steps have to be made. Some were already made, some SOPs were changed and so on, but that is still at the superficial level. Some deep changes got to be made.
I want to zero in on something you said about the hotel owner. One of the weaknesses I feel about the Guyana police force, and I've said this, I've been a colonist 36 years, so I know I would have said this more than 25 years ago. You should not have a commander of an enclave in Guyana, a district, a village, where there are very wealthy people. And that commander should be removed or assigned months after. Once that commander and his deputy stays in that enclave or village or district where you have billionaires, where you have people who own maybe the economy of the village. They have 3-4 supermarkets in the village, right? They have half of the village is rice and it belongs to them. What happens is a system of patronage evolves. The deputy, his commander, and the senior officer of the police station come to know these bourgeois people very well. An overlapping relation begins. They even gift exchange. Well, not gift exchange. These policemen get gifts when it's their birthday. Well, and that's because it's a close village. It's a close area. And everybody knows the commander. What happens then is that through natural instinct, the commander protects his friend who knocked down a lady on the road. When the lady husband go to the station, officer, we were standing on the parapet. This man looked like he was drunk. And the man is driving a $60 million car, and he knows the commander well. One of the ways you can decapitate that kind of patronage is to quickly change them. You have some places in this country with some seriously rich people, you know, seriously rich people living in take West Coast.
But I think you're underrating how small the entire society is. Those rich people will know the commander in Borbies even, right? So if you move the commander from Borbies and take them to Region 3, when they turn up the, you know, even if if they don't know the commander personally, they will call somebody and say, oh yeah, I know this man, and yeah, we know this man. You know, it's smart.
I want to tell viewers something that I swear on my parents' grave is true. I swear I'm not a believer, but I have a family which is more important to me than anything in this world. My daughter and my wife. Don't mess with them at all. You could do anything to me. And I swear on them. I stood on the parapet east of Movie Town and I watched this thing. And I want all you viewers here to take some time off and watch it. I'm going back to the police protecting the rich and powerful and how we should protect the small people. I watched this thing, Leonard Craig. Those police are flagging down people for documents, and the way the black screen, and I watched it at the cars these people stop. They just have a natural attitude to let a $60 million car pass. They do not stop these cars, and I'm suggesting is 3 reasons. One, they may know this is a very wealthy person, so they let him go. 2, they're intimidated when that person pull up. They're intimidated by a guy driving a $45 million car. Or 3, they feel that person is big and may report them and lie on them. So they just say, look, you see the vehicle going there? There's a big one, boy. And they stop a lot of
ordinary people.
Yeah. And I watched that thing, and I'm repeating this thing to the government of Guyana and the police force. Look, send out a decoy and look at who they're stopping for papers, for tint. Those expensive vehicles just passed. And what I did, I went out of my car and I said to them, I am not see you stopping those expensive cars. And what you can do? You just dismiss me. You say, Mr. Kissoon, who you talking about? You there here all there, you there. That's it. They just I think that after this tragedy and the outcry and more of all the failure, especially at the hospital on Monday, there has to be. There has to be.
Because it is elementary. For example, going back to last week again at the hotel. I grew up almost all my life in a police compound. That's where I live. My father was a policeman, and we lived in police house throughout my life until I was about 16, 17. And then we moved into our own home, and my father eventually left the police force and so on. But my wife has never come near police station or what. So I can say I am more exposed to policing 100 times more than her. She knows nothing. And when we were at home, since the incident occurred, she keeps saying, why they don't drain the pool, drain the pool, drain the pool. And she got no police training. And these people with years of police experience and senior superintendents and deputy commissioner, how you can understand something as elementary as that somebody is alleged to have been drowned in a pool, drain the pool. And the only way of getting evidence from the pool is that you have to drain it. Some item of clothes, some toenail, some hair sample, something would be left in the pool. drain it, so there is no dispute about that anymore. And I'm just saying that to show how elementary,
more than that,
elementary. I can't understand it.
I grew up in Georgetown, and every time there's a fire, after the fire, I'm telling you, I see this. You see the yellow tape.
Yeah.
There was no yellow tape at that burnt hotel.
Yeah, and even after the hotel was burned, people could just walk in and take videos. And I mean, I don't understand how heads have much more than the 3 police officers on the close arrest and the senior. I don't understand how more heads than that is now rolling in the streets. Well, let me don't say in the streets, because that sounds wrong. How many? And let me don't even use heads again, because this is a bad time to use those terms.
I want to stop there and say that I have met in my life as a social activist, as a human rights activist, and as a media operative. I have met wonderful police officers.
Surely.
And I think they have as much decent police officers in this place as they have in other countries. Secondly, we must criticize them, but don't ever forget we need them. And they do come, and they do put their lives on the risk. I see how they were trying to cope with those riotous people. So we just hope that catch of good professional ones would just expand.
Yeah.
Because they have some. Look, I've met some real top class professional police officers in the Guyana police force.
Surely. As you mentioned that, it came to mind that on an interview I saw on a program named Sources or something like that, the family of the deceased, of the young lady, the young girl, the young child, said and mentioned a name, that a senior policeman by the name of Harris in Region 3. I like to use this opportunity to big up Harris. Their family, they decry the police all the time, but they praised Harris. He came and they said he engaged with them just as much as he engaged with the hotel owner. And he is the one who said, this information that we got earlier concerning the camera that saw this girl went into the car and left is false. And I am saying we have to search this hotel now. And they were in high praise of him. And I want to recognize him as acting professionally on the matter. And many others who have not been named, I don't know, but that's the name I gleaned. And sometimes we need to, because we are here talking about the changes the police need to make, we also need to acknowledge some of the bright spots.
Right.
The
name McBean.
Came up also.
Let me tell you something.
As being professional.
Let me tell you something about my personal communication with McBean, which has occurred around 3 or 4 times. That's because I'm on the seawall all the time and I may see things. And I'll tell you this. Of the 4 times I have contacted Mr. McBean, Mr. McBean has acted. Mr. McBean has acted in it. I have said in my columns, and I've said in this program, I met one of the most professional traffic chief in the world, in a former traffic chief. And
who's that? Dion?
What's his name?
Benjo?
No, it's the one before this present one now.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I can't remember.
It's an African guy who's now in charge of Impact, and he was a chief passport officer. I can't remember his name, and I know it right.
Beats me.
Right. Now, he's the one before this, and he left the chief passport officer job to become the traffic chief.
Right.
I saw that that man went to Banks DIH about Banks DIH occupying the parapets and telling people they can't park there. And Leonard, that's one of the most senior police officers in the country. And Banks DIH refused to come out and meet him. You know, and that man didn't raise his voice. The man just said, tell his Banks, let's go. I know what I will do. You know, you know, there are dozens like him. There are dozens, and some of those who fall down, I think the police force, to my mind, is an indispensable institution in Guyana. And let me say right now, I'm a supporter. I'm going to vote for Fanali, but I am a blind endorser of raise the pay for police officers. I mean, there's no. I wouldn't sit down in a program and even shut my mouth if somebody say, well, I would say, police pay has to be elevated. But in situations like these, there need to be a retreat and there need to be some serious decisions.
Coming out of that retreat, which should be inclusive and probably wide and consultative, the government should have a definitive timeline for how the development of the police force will go. Definitive timeline. This is going to take 2 years. And in this 2 years, these are the steps we will follow as a government. Some of it could even be included in the manifesto for the next term, because a deep police reform cannot occur between now and election. But the long road should be started immediately. Some of the things, as I acknowledged earlier, have started. I've seen they changed some of the policies with respect to missing persons and how they're going to treat it. Some SOPs, new SOPs were gazetted, I think, yesterday. And these kinds of things. But the government needs to go far and need to in order to win back public confidence, everything got to happen in the open, and the government got to keep updating the public with respect to reforms. These are the steps we are making. This is what we have to do. One of the suggestions that I made way back since Ramjitan was that the OPR in the police force cannot investigate police crime. They can investigate police professional misconduct, which is different from crime. Police professional misconduct could be investigated by the OPR, but once it escalates, so if you are investigating a misconduct and you realize that criminal intent is involved, the case then immediately goes to the Police Complaints Authority, which that law of itself should be reformed to give them teeth to be an investigator of the police. Currently, they have I shouldn't say no such powers. But currently, as I understand it, they don't have those powers. They got to communicate with the Commissioner of Police, and they got to ask the Commissioner of Police for the file, and then the police themselves got to carry out the investigation, and then no, reform the law, give them teeth to investigate crime of policemen, separate as a separate entity from the Guyana police force, and that they can take evidence, they can prosecute, they can go to court, the full works, like if they are the police of the police. So that is one thing that can be done. The nitty-gritty of it could be discussed at a retreat, as you say, and let's in this retreat they probably need to call in. Well, they need to call in some regional people to sit down at the retreat. Yeah. I want to call on Guyanese here and the viewers to continue to express their indignation of what, and the two men faces are there. And people talk about all the time, calling FBI. Please call in the FBI, since you like FBI.
they have high-powered resolution instruments to bring up faces clear in video. How could two guys throw acid in a bus with school children?
The last thing I heard this morning is that they were found, and they might, from what I heard, is that they might be charged under the terrorism, the statutes governing terrorism, which carries minimum 10-year sentence. So, while
it's a no bail offense.
While they think they were just on an excursion, just throwing acid and they're having fun, a minimum of 10 years they're playing with.
Well, if there's conviction, I want it to be more than 10 years. But what manner of person would want to say, man, let me go and do some damage? And you take a stick and you lash a bus, or you throw a stink egg in the bus. Man, you going to throw acid in a bus carrying children?
Yeah.
I don't know under what section of the law he's going to be charged. They're going to be charged under. But I hope the police force is using high-resolution instrument to capture their faces, put those two men's faces every day on Facebook, on television, and offer a reward. And all those people who have been vocal, you need to be vocal about attacking school children. Now, Leno, this 11-year-old girl, when my daughter was 11 years old, she appeared so sweet in the eyes of me, my wife. So your heart goes out. Not, when you live at 70, 75, you lived your life. She could have been a female Usain Bolt. She could be a female Brian Lara. So your heart goes out to her. How could anyone sully that girl's legacy, her image, by going and burning down people's places and looting?
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, let me, I want to...
lock these people up and throw away the keys, man.
I want to commend Nigel Hughes. We talk negative things about him here, or we evaluate him on the negative side of things many times. But today, unless he has made any other statement that belies what I'm saying, his last statement that I saw, I think he acquitted himself well. He was to the point, and he did not seem to take low political jabs or to try to extract political benefit from the sufferings of others. And I think that is commendable as a political leader. And sometimes political leaders don't understand that when they speak, we know it's politics speaking. You don't have to take even subtle political jabs. You just have to speak to people, and people know, and people will respect that. And I would like to communicate my respect for what Nigel, you said. I also like to communicate my respect for Jorman Figueroa. And I will ask the government to seriously consider the proposition made by Jorman Figueroa. All right, to name a missing child's alert after Adriana, and to implement a similar system as has already existed at other places around the world. We just got to copy, tweak, and use it. And so those two persons in the opposition, I'd like to recognize thing. And there might be several others, but I am just talking about what I'm aware of. And in the same vein, you mentioned Hansel Jordan. Vince Roy Jordan.
He was very exciting.
And in the same vein, we have to condemn people who make speech that is calculated to incite, or not just make speech, make posts, right? And some of the posts you're seeing on Facebook are saying that the government unleashed their goons to go and beat up. So they're suggesting that these guys that throw acid on people were sent by the government. You could imagine how ridiculous that is, to say that some of these people were placed there by the government to
give Guyana a bad name internationally,
right? And to bring on racial strife. That the government thrives on that. This government has more to lose.
Any government had more to. The thing was all over the news.
Yeah, the government has more to lose, and a government would be silly, would be extremely stupid. And as I wrote in my column on Monday gone in the Chronicle, is that the government has been getting gains in Afro communities, and the gains are increasing on a daily basis. Why would the government then use Afro-Guyanese to store up trouble that will turn off Afro-Guyanese, and they lose the gains that they were made? It just doesn't make sense. And so the sensible people who are watching, the sensible people who interact on Facebook and so on, sift out that nonsense. Just sift it out. And let's try to get at the heart of the matter, and let's try to rectify those things to have a better Guyana, right? And that is where we have to go from here. Is that our speech, let it be based on facts. So many times I walk around, as you know, I am not the type of person who hide behind a heavily tinted vehicle and all of that, and I walk around town. And as I walk around town, people telling me, "Oh, you hear this," and I say, "Okay, no, I didn't hear that, but where did you get that from?" And then they're gonna say, "Some woman is saying this and all of that." No, get your information directly from credible news outlets, and there's some of them that you know of. Yes, some of them are slanted to the opposition, some are slanted to the government, but generally speaking, they give you news of information that is brewing in society, right? Yes, you can read it and you can see a slant, but outside of the slant, the facts are generally there, whether it's Stabrook News, whether it's get your information from there. And I am asking the young journalists, when you sit down to write your story, just be careful, look back at every word, just be careful, even in your slant, because we can't take that away from you. It happens in America, it happens everywhere around the world. Even in your slant or your little personal bias, either for or against the government, for or against the opposition, just be careful you're not writing anything that is going to incite people or anything that is going to mislead people, right? I'm not going to take that away from any reporter. You can report facts with a slant. We understand that. But you got to be responsible and careful.
Well, even our mainstream politicians, I've seen something. I've seen a sort, what is most degenerate, immoral about this tragedy is how, if you have the scrape heads or the scrap heads using the girl thing to loot and thief television set, all right, that should be condemned. But the politicians have subtly used certain types of vocabulary that makes you feel that they felt what the goons were doing was coming anyway because of government policies. Mm-hmm. That I've seen Kian Jabur Kian Jabur describing one of the most robust economies and one of the best economies in the third world right now, as if it's a real crash down banana republic, and linking that, well, you see, this has happened when you have a society like that. And since this thing happened, people are using, I have not seen any opposition leader or any anti-PPP civil society group or any anti-PPP women group that say, look, we have to come together. We must make sure we don't use this thing to gain political capital. You know, the president went to that girl's family twice and promised, look, what you want, let us know. Do you know the government finance totally every aspect of the financing of the 2 pathologists that the family requested, airline tickets, hotel accommodation, everything? And it was time to come together to say, look, we need some weaknesses in society. We need to identify those weaknesses and make Guyana a better place. But I have seen all of them have used this thing to score political points. And people, you know, when I saw Nigel using a photograph with David Patterson, the former mayor, and a whole set of obscure people that I never seen before, and they say they're leaders of party that I never heard before. That's on Facebook. And there's about, I count 15 of them. And the way the statement is slanted, it did say at the very end, we mustn't damage people's property, but it talks about what the government has done, and when you treat protesters like violently, these things happen, etc. And I thought Nigel Hughes probably undid in that thing, that statement, what he did by courageously calling for people not to do bad things, and she just... But you could see the way the statement is
the way it evolved.
Yeah. And there's only one thing at the bottom saying, please do not damage people's property, etc. But how the opposition had surprised somebody like Kian Jabur using the thing, using a girl 11-year-old tragedy, you know, to score political points. And what? Well, I saw Coretta MacDonald and another PNC parliamentarian at the La Penitence police station. And for they shut their mouth and think before they talk, they're there because the ladies wanted for inciting terror. And all Coretta MacDonald and the other person can say is that, I don't think she did anything. You would think they say, we're here at the station to see, let them show us on Facebook what this lady said, because we're hoping that they not pick her up by mistake. But they're proclaiming the lady innocent. And the police force have
video evidence.
Right. This lady and what she's saying. You know, when I see that, I want to know how these people think they can win an election. You know, there is a big thing about consensus candidate. If we get this consensus candidate, and the consensus candidate is presentable, and we merge our parties together, we could beat the PPP. But how you can beat the PPP with... Go on Facebook now, you have a smartphone. Go all over and see the things they're saying. Go and see what Coretta MacDonald is saying at the Penitence police station. Who gonna vote for you? But you know, Norton said he's on record as saying PPP instigated.
Yeah. And that is why I was coming around to Norton it's just disappointing. It's just disappointing.
That's the use of a mild word.
And you see, it is clear that some people came out to show solidarity, because that's the term the parents of the young child said they want. They said they didn't want what happened on the West Coast. on the day when they were there waiting and say they're not going home, they said these people are solidarity keepers. That's the term they use. Show solidarity with us, not protest. That's what the family is asking. And the father made a video saying that his daughter is a daughter of peace and she would never even want protests in her name. And this is what the family is saying, not even protests. Solidarity with the family. Solidarity. And solidarity should not include throwing sticks and rocks at the police. Solidarity should not include that. Solidarity means you can create a shrine, a makeshift shrine, bring flowers. If you got tears, some people got tears to shed, and you present your flowers. If there's a wall or something that you can write, and then you gather and you sing, whether it's hymns or whatever. That is what the child deserves. Not the cursing up and the scoring of political points and all of that. And I am saying right now on this program, if these protests took that form, and that is what the family is requesting. I understand that people are angry at the many missteps the police made. I understand people are angry, but the gathering are claiming to be gathered in Adriana's name. And Adriana's family is saying that they want solidarity and not protest. So the moment you come to gather in her name and you go beyond condolence and solidarity, you have desecrated the entire process. And so I am going to use this program again to call on people to express some decency. Our funeral is coming up. Attend the funeral to give support to the family first. Yes, you can double that as a type of protest, like walk around with your placard outside or whatever it is. But the moment the police is going to ask you, please move from this section, or please stay in a line here, or please go there, and you want to resist that, the moment you do that, I think you're stepping outside of I think you're bordering on well, not even bordering. You're supposed to obey the order of a police officer for crowd control purposes. And so I'd encourage people to think, and at the same breath, I'd like to ask the guy in the police force. You know that funeral is going to have thousands of people. You got to prepare from now. You got to have a plan. You got to have barriers and barricade and areas where people cannot go and areas where people must go. And you can't just wait until a crowd build up and until those elements incite the crowd and then attempt to go. And
do you know the president is going to be there?
Okay.
Ministers are going to be there. All over the world. You got to ensure those people's safety.
Yeah.
I hope they understand.
And I really, really, really looking forward to see the police behave professionally with the crowd, and the way they plan and execute for that funeral. And they have to have profilers in plain clothes among the people.
Other thing,
when you see something brewing, take people out, out of the...
There are pre-funeral arrangements, and then there's post-funeral arrangements.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the police.
Yes.
When that girl is laid to rest, and the crowd is leaving, you've got to man the entire East Coast with patrols to see groups of 20 people pass in. Don't run and pelt somebody car, pet some run into some supermarket and rush her back. You have to prepare for that because hooligans who don't give a damn about Adriana Young are gonna say to themselves, hey, they got a funeral nearby. We could do something. The police have to know that there are people that think like that, low lives that think like that. So they've got to man Region 3. Extra vehicles and extra ranks got to be around Perica, Tushane, Leonard side. They have to do that. But we don't need to tell them that.
But it seems like we do because, I mean, for example, Georgetown Hospital, as you spoke of earlier, it's a no-brainer that if this thing is going to happen, that everybody is going to rush down at Georgetown Hospital. The morning from 6 o'clock in the morning, you got to put your thing and have a perimeter that is far away from the hospital, so nobody can come through there unless they're coming in with a sick or they're coming in with a hospital paper to say I go in and get an X-ray.
When you see low lives, they move in flocks. About 10, 15 of them come in. They can't tell the police man at the barrier, we going to visit. Visitors is only at the hospital, you're only allowed 3.
Yeah.
Right. And you see they ain't got no basket with them. You see there. So you say, no. You can't.
So the poor security at the hospital was left to face that huge crowd. And they don't have the training or expertise for that. And then the hospital said to them, vet everybody who's coming in, till to the extent where some journalists were even kept out. And then the journalists now, they and all, as I said earlier, they got to be careful. They start blaming the government for keeping out the press. Whereas the security now was overwhelmed and probably didn't even believe some of the journalists. We didn't believe that you didn't give us, maybe in their opinion, they didn't get a credible enough story, so they stopped the journalists. And then the excitement start again. And eventually I heard all the journalists were let in. But the blame for that also got to be transferred to where it actually belongs. And that is in the lap of the Guyana police force. It's elementary, man. It's way too elementary. And that is what I'm saying. That somebody got to...
They had to have plainclothes guys with a transmitter. Well, they can't transmit in front of people. But he would go around the corner and said, crowd billing was 20, now it's 50. I sense I don't have a good feeling here, Commander.
Yes, it's basic, it's every...
How we know that? And they don't know that. And then when you got the Al-Conference of blocking off 4 blocks, and for Al-Conference where people can just drive and go into the hotel and park. But our time has come. You want to conclude? And then I will...
Look, I am appealing to people who are watching this program, especially those people who actually live here in Guyana. I know many people overseas are looking at this program right now. And sometimes when you're overseas, you don't get a real sense of what's happening in Guyana. Not yesterday, on Monday, it was bad. It was terrible. There were fires everywhere. People are deliberately lighting fire in front of supermarkets to cause a confusion and a distraction, and then run into the supermarkets and try to raid. It was terrible. And it was probably more than the police could have handled. And at first, when I saw the order from the minister saying he is going to end all protests and so on, I was hesitant. But then when you realize what was happening on Monday, it was necessary. Because there were some peaceful protests, for example, and I want to point out Denham still had a protest. People had their placard, they filed, and so on. And I saw that on Facebook, and there were no incidents and so on. So there were some that were conducted properly, but then there were others that were infiltrated. And, it is extremely disingenuous to say that, government send their goons and all that. Just be wise with the information you get. Make sure you get it from Kaicho, Stabrook, Chronicle, the legitimate outlets, whether it is Gordon, whether it is Travis Chase. Yes, again, I'm appealing and I understand that people got their slants, but please get your thing from the correct sources and filter.
Let me finish this program by appealing to President Orphan Ali and his team to have a team working logistically to look at those victims and what they have lost and to compensate them. People's lorries were burnt, people's cars were burnt. Please have a team working, visiting the areas, identifying the victims, and please compensate those people promptly. They deserve it. Nobody going about their life Monday evening seeking happiness in their home should have their car destroyed by low-life people who were incited by politicians who just wanted to use the tragedy of an 11-year-old girl to score political gains. That is not only degenerate. There's no other word to describe that. President Ali and the government of Guyana, please work out logistically a project that could compensate those people and compensate them as urgent as yesterday. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for ever reliable Leonard Craig being with us. We'll see you on our talk show on Friday. And maybe you can take Leonard Craig's telephone number and ask him to have a little exception from his Seventh-day Adventist culture and co-host the call-in program and hear what the callers have to say on Friday. Catch you later. Bye-bye.